capacity of the Earth. Rapid advances in science and technology can develop new types of energy and save resources, but ultimately, it is a drop in the bucket and cannot solve the crisis that we are facing. The chronic diseases of the entire human society are as follows. Resource consumption exceeds regeneration capacity. Everyone is a consumer of resources, not a creator of resources. In the long run, the depletion of resources is an inevitable reality, and this problem cannot be solved by relying on the traditional production and life mode. The waste of resources. A large part of what people use in food, clothing, housing, transportation, birth, old age, sickness, and death today is extravagant and unnecessary. This problem cannot be solved by legal and moral teachings. It can only be solved by changing the traditional production and life mode. Official corruption and a slothful government. There are always contradictions between officials and the people. This problem has not been resolved for thousands of years. The problem is that the traditional production and life mode are fertile soil for corruption. If the traditional production and life mode do not change, the corruption of officials and government sloth cannot be eliminated. Conflicts between ethnic groups and between countries. The competition and conflicts between different ethnic groups and nations which are caused by resource competition and ideological differences have never been resolved in history. If these conflicts cannot be resolved, huge military expenditures will not be reduced, and wars will be inevitable. The huge damage that this causes to society cannot be avoided. The only measure to solve this chronic disease lies in changing the traditional production and life mode of human beings. The gap between the rich and the poor. Due to everyone's different talents and the efforts that different people make, it is natural and normal for people to have a wealth gap between them. However, if the gap between rich and poor becomes too large, conflicts will form. The most effective way to alleviate this conflict is not legal and moral teaching, not to mention administrative orders and taxation, but to change the traditional mode of production and life. The magic of money. With money as a medium of exchange, its value and function cannot be questioned and underestimated. However, when people regard the pursuit of money as the primary motivation and purpose of survival and life, social turmoil and personal troubles and pains will be the result. How can the magic of money be eliminated? Only by changing the traditional mode of production and life. The loss of integrity. The more there are people, the fewer the resources, the more intense the competition will be, and the lower the integrity of people will be. With the loss of integrity, the cost of communication between people, countries, and special interest groups will increase infinitely. This is not only detrimental to the welfare of all the people, but also detrimental to resource conservation and social stability. How can this problem be solved? Legal and moral constraints cannot play a major role, so it can only be solved by changing the traditional mode of production and life. The disadvantages of government planning and a market economy. Facts have proved that the government's plan will take care of one thing and overlook another will lead to the impoverishment of the people. The market economy is like the law of the jungle, which will lead to the weak becoming the prey to the strong, which is not the ideal state of human life. I have thought about many options of how to make the world favorable and harmonious, and for the people to live and work in peace and contentment. Finally, it has been found that the best plan is to replace the traditional way of production and life with the new way of production and life. So, what kind of mode is the new human production and life mode? In a word, it is a full replication and copy of the production and life mode of the 1,000-year world of the kingdom of heaven. The model of this new mode of production and life on earth is the production and life mode of the second home created by Lifechanyuan. A brief summary of this new mode is, human beings will no longer enter the institution of marriage and family, but enter the program of the second home. Countries will disintegrate, there will be global cooperation and resource sharing, the scale of population growth will become lower than the regeneration capacity of the Earth's resources, and people will flow around the world designedly, allowing everyone to reach the state of life in the kingdom of heaven where everyone owns nothing yet owns everything. This is not a dream, but a summary of the successful experience that has been practiced on the earth for 15 years. May every citizen of the earth get to know, think, and practice it. The connotation of the highest level of human civilization. Dayform Buddha. May 2, 2023. When human civilization enters the most advanced stage, there will be no laws, no countries, no currency, no marriage and family, and no forms of identification such as ID cards, passports, driver's licenses, work permits, medical licenses, judge certification, professor certification, and so on, and there will be no various types of business licenses. Readers may think that this is impossible. Without laws, without countries, without any identification, the whole human society will become chaotic. For example, if there are no driver's licenses, people who don't understand traffic rules will also drive on the road and will inevitably cause traffic accidents. I want to say that we cannot imagine the form and operating mode of the highest level of human civilization society with the current consciousness and living environment of people, but we can imagine that when everyone is selfless and exudes the nature of truth, goodness, beauty, love, sincerity, and trust from within, all the disputes in the world will be melted away. The unskilled driver will not drive on the road because he loves others more than he loves himself. Perhaps some readers may think that people cannot completely achieve unselfishness and selflessness, but in fact, when the traditional production and life mode of society will be replaced by the second home mode, people will find that the more unselfish and selfless they are, the more they will enjoy the joy and beauty of life and life to the greatest extent. We have proven this through 14 years of this production and life mode in practice. Without countries, laws, and marriage and family, will everything become chaotic? No, when we emulate the 1,000-year world mode, we will find that the higher the degree of freedom, the more civilized people will become. The more restrictions and constraints, the more people's selfishness, greed, and opportunism will be stimulated. Moreover, when tens of millions of second homes are born on the earth, people will choose to enter these homes to live in, and all the homes will operate according to universal values and the way of nature. All people on earth will become members of this big family of homes, and no matter what they do, whether it is power generation, farming, clothing production, education of children, shepherding on the grassland, or technological innovation in the laboratory, people from all walks of life will become members of the earth family. Without currency and private property, everyone will freely use their intelligence and talents, and all the issues of food, clothing, housing, transportation, aging, and death will be resolved by this big family. No one would want to keep currency or have private property. Each second home has 30 to 300 members, and each member rotates to work and live in another home for 3 years. When people around the world start to flow freely, there will be no more national, party, religious, or cultural barriers, and any turmoil and war will no longer occur. Hunger will also disappear, and the probability of theft, robbery, corruption, fraud, and deception will become negligible. I am very sure that everyone must have 100,000 questions in their hearts about this, but I can tell you that I have thought of all the problems you are worried about, and I know the solutions. I can also tell you accurately that no one's thinking in the world today is deeper than mine, and no one's solution to solving problems is superior to mine. Even if the Eastern saint that everyone is looking forward to comes, it will not surpass my theory and practice. Humanity has only one bright future ahead, which is to follow what I say, because no matter how intelligent a person may be, they cannot escape the 36-8 diagram arrays. Only by following the path I guide you on can we have the most wonderful future. The construction of the spiritual garden is paramount for a civilized society. Xiefeng. The invisible factors determine the nature of visible things. If humanity desires to step into a civilized society, relying solely on visible elements such as systems, power, laws, wealth distribution systems, weapons, relief, or charity is futile. Only by purifying the hearts of every global citizen, ensuring that there are no weeds or toxic plants in their spiritual gardens, can this goal be achieved. Human behavior is determined by consciousness, and consciousness is the spiritual garden. The components within one's consciousness decide whether the spiritual garden is beautiful or ugly. When someone's consciousness is filled with worship and pursuit of money and power, an arrogance that seeks to dominate others, and psychological elements like comparison, jealousy, hatred, and greed, they are bound to bring harm to others and society. If the construction of the spiritual garden is neglected, officials will engage in corruption and abuse of power, intellectuals will flatter the powerful and distort truth, vendors will substitute the genuine with the fake, businesses will deceive and poison, and citizens will scheme and harm one another. Gambling, drinking, adultery, fraud, theft, and other vices will flourish. Seasons will fall out of order, societal systems will descend into chaos, and few will be able to achieve a beautiful life. Without the proper construction of the spiritual garden, societal operating costs will skyrocket, interactions between people will be rife with conflict and contradictions, trust will be lost, and individuals will become selfish, deceitful, and cunning. Familial, friendly, and romantic relationships will turn into tools or stepping stones for personal gain. Political, commercial, and romantic arenas will devolve into casinos and battlefields. The powerful will live in fear of annihilation, the wealthy in fear of kidnapping, and ordinary people will become mobs. Does the existence of nations serve any purpose? Nations have existed for thousands of years, but apart from bringing war, plunder, and erecting barriers and borders, what have they truly contributed to human society? With slogans like "America First" and every country adopting a "My Country First" policy, the result is inevitably brutal competition and the impossibility of peace. The strong oppress the weak, and nuclear blackmail and threats are prime examples of this. Has the existence of religion been beneficial? Religion has existed for millennia, yet has it brought peace, happiness, blessing, or tranquility to humanity? Can anesthetized souls truly experience joy, freedom, and happiness? Can a closed-off consciousness still dream of going to heaven? Is the existence of law effective? Take a look, what country does not have laws? Nations around the world have created laws in abundance, covering all aspects of life, yet can they prevent wars and conflicts? Can they enable the underprivileged to lead prosperous, happy lives? Can they guarantee freedom of movement or the freedom to say no? A currently pervasive judgment, illegal immigration, deserves scrutiny. If legal immigration were possible, who would risk their life to immigrate illegally? Who does not love their homeland? If people could survive in their own hometowns, who would choose to traverse mountains and seas to seek a livelihood elsewhere? What is law? Anything that enables people to live joyfully, freely, and happily is law. Anything that hinders joy, freedom, and happiness cannot be called law. The earth itself is but a small village in the vastness of space. Allowing the free migration of this village's inhabitants, that is true law. If illegal immigration is deemed a crime, then every human on earth is an illegal immigrant because no one was here at the inception of the planet. Where did you come from? Did you illegally immigrate to Earth from another celestial body? In America, apart from the indigenous peoples, everyone else is essentially an illegal immigrant. Fundamentally, the United States is a stronghold of illegal immigration. If its own illegal immigration is considered justifiable, why should subsequent illegal immigrants be deemed unjustifiable? Isn't America's strength today the result of illegal immigration? Why then expel illegal immigrants? Allow every person on Earth to illegally immigrate to the US, and the entire Earth becomes America. Wouldn't that be a good thing? How many places that strictly restrict outsiders are truly civilized, prosperous, and strong? To every entrepreneur, reflect on this: where do most of your time and energy go? Is it not spent on handling interpersonal relationships? Are the costs of managing these relationships not exceedingly high? If everyone on Earth had a beautiful spiritual garden, would you still need to sacrifice sleep, worry, and anguish? To every individual, think about it: aren't the things that trouble, pain, and distress you the most in life caused by people? The powerful bully you, the powerless deceive you, and those close to you betray you. If the spiritual gardens of everyone you encounter were perfect, where would toxic food come from? Where would extortion, fraud, and theft come from? History must be examined, reality must be scrutinized, and authority must be questioned. Otherwise, the path forward will only grow narrower and more treacherous. Humanity needs a collective purification of its spirit. This is the best path toward a world of favorable weather, universal peace, and a life of joy and fulfillment for all. November 23, 2024. The efficiency, depth and breadth of life. Xiefeng. July 16, 2020. Most people should be geniuses in a certain field, but most people are mediocre and find their goals to be unachievable throughout their lives. The reason is that they are forced by life and cannot engage in the work they like, and their entire lives are consumed in their trivial daily affairs. We analyzed housewives statistically. Few housewives have achieved success in their careers, because they are submerged in daily trivial housework. We asked an elderly woman, "What have you done in your life?" She could hardly list any examples that she can be proud of. In fact, she has a lot of work to do every day: cooking, washing, taking children out, purchasing, cleaning, and visiting relatives and friends. Countless daily tasks almost dragged her down and, in the end, she found that she had accomplished nothing in her life. Of course, I do not advocate that all people become the best, glorify and illuminate their ancestors and be successful, much less advocate that all people be extraordinary and live their whole life gloriously. I just want people to live a life that is a little more comfortable, cool, relaxed, and free. Then, how to achieve this wish? Do only one thing in your life. This is a truth that I have recently realized. In the past 10 years or so, I have spent my life being a guide for Lifechanyuan and have not done anything else. Thus, I have finished writing articles comprised of millions of words and created more than a dozen picturesque human homes based on the new life model. But in the last 2 or 3 months, I have done so many tasks which are too miscellaneous, that I have hardly anything to show for it. Every day, I get up at 5 o'clock, browse the internet for half an hour, and quickly wash and prepare breakfast for the guests. Even if there are only 2 guests, it takes me at least 2.5 hours from preparation to completion. During these 2.5 hours, I must do at least 20 things or more. After the guests have left, I clean up the room. From cleaning the toilet and bathroom sink, wiping tables and chairs, changing the sheets, pillowcases and 3 sets of large, medium and small towels, until cleaning the carpet, there are more than 10 things to do. In addition, it takes an average of more than 2 hours a day to clean up the yard. It is not easy to mow the lawn of 10 acres of land neatly and beautifully. I also need to answer the phone at any time to answer questions from the guests, and to take garbage to the dump more than 10 kilometers away from time to time, to go to over 30 kilometers away to make purchases, to keep the restaurant clean and tidy at all times, to keep records of the income and expenditures at any time for the preparation of the quarterly accounting and tax payment, to pay the fees every month, internet fees, TV fees, mobile phone number fees, medical care insurance premiums, gas bills, electricity bills, etc. In addition to these daily tasks, I must deal with unexpected occurrences anytime and anywhere. I am thinking that if I spend my whole life like this, even if I am a genius in a certain field, my talent will be buried in endless tedious affairs. Doing a lot of various kinds of work can broaden the breadth of life, but you will never reach the depth, height, of life, and there will be no efficiency. Always doing one thing will be the most efficient. The more complicated and varied the things you do, the lower the efficiency. Last year, I planned that any way possible, this year I will go away once, at least to visit Prince George City, which is more than 300 kilometers away. As a result of my daily tasks, I haven't been able to achieve this goal till now. I am tightly bound to the same place and cannot leave for a while. A donkey has a blindfold over its eyes to let it grind grain. It goes around and around the millstone and will go around in circles in the same place for a lifetime. In fact, most people live in the same way as donkeys do. The donkey has to revolve around the millstone. Whether the donkey pulls the grindstone, makes the circle or not, it is not up to it. What about people? Compelled by environment and the pressures of life, people have to repeat the same work every day. All this is involuntarily, and they have no choice. Who can say that, I do what I like the most every day? To make life a little more comfortable, chic, relaxed and free, we must only do one thing in our lives, so that we can reach the depth of life. A drilling rig can only drill tens of meters at a time if it infrequently changes the drilling location. To drill to 1,000 meters or 10,000 meters, you must drill in the same hole. Only by concentrating on one goal, can it be thus. Rubbing ropes against wooden boards will cut into them and dripping water onto stones will wear them down. If we work 8 hours a day to make $100, can we make $100 in just 2 hours? I think it is possible. The way to do this is to do only one thing. The more complicated the things we do, the less money we can make. Only by doing one thing can we be relaxed and comfortable. In this way, can we have a good mood and free time to dabble in a broader field in order to expand the breadth of life. The problem is, who can do only one thing in a lifetime? If we still pursue the efficiency, depth, and breadth of life in accordance with the traditional production and life mode, for most people, it is just a beautiful and unrealistic fantasy. There is only one way to reach the goals, that is to live in the life mode of new oasis for life created by Lifechanyuan. That is the best place to realize your ideal of life. The 8 fundamental rights granted by the greatest creator to humanity. Xiefeng. December 4, 2022. The greatest creator has granted humanity 8 fundamental rights. If you do not possess them, it means someone has deprived you of your human rights. The 8 fundamental rights of being human are, the right to survival, the right to create, the right to migrate, the right to speak, the right to personal autonomy, the right to thought, the right to learn, and the right to refuse. The right to survival, it is also the right to life. Every individual has the power to protect their own life and the right to survive. Anyone who prevents others from living is depriving them of their right to survival, which is equivalent to depriving them of their life. The right to create, also known as the right to labor, every person has the right to engage in labor and creation on the land that nurtures and supports them. To prevent someone from laboring and creating is to deprive them of their right to create. The right to migrate, also known as the right to move, people have the freedom to migrate freely on earth according to their needs, to pursue a better life and ensure their own survival. If someone is not allowed to migrate freely, it is equivalent to depriving them of their right to migrate. The right to speak, also known as the right to freedom of speech, the greatest creator has given each person a mouth, which is not just for eating food but also for expressing their wishes and communicating with others through speech. To prevent someone from speaking is to deprive them of their right to speak. The right to personal autonomy, every individual has the right to freely control their own body. The body does not belong to anyone else but oneself. It is a person's right to determine how to use their own body. To prevent individuals from freely controlling their own bodies is to deprive them of their right to personal autonomy. The right to thought, humans possess consciousness and thinking abilities. The activity of thinking leads to the formation of ideas, which is known as thought. This is an innate right. If someone is not allowed to think or is deprived of their ability to think, they would live a life no better than that of pigs, dogs, chickens, or ducks. The right to learn, people have the right to learn according to their own wishes. They can learn whatever they want, whether it is philosophy or how to cultivate crops. It is their freedom. To prevent someone from learning certain ideas and skills is to deprive them of their right to learn. The right to refuse, each person has their own preferences and personality. When certain ideas and demands do not align with their preferences, personality, or wishes, they have the right to refuse. If someone insists on imposing certain ideas and methods on others, it is depriving them of their right to refuse. Only when a person possesses these 8 fundamental human rights can they live a life of happiness, joy, freedom, and blessedness, and the society will be peaceful and harmonious. If any of these 8 fundamental human rights are lacking, individuals will experience discomfort and suffering, and society will be filled with conflicts and disputes. Do you possess these 8 fundamental human rights? If not, you are not living as a human being. To live as a true human being, you need to strive to obtain these 8 fundamental rights bestowed by the greatest Creator and reclaim your rights as a human being from those who have deprived you of them. The 8 Sorrows of Life. Xiefeng. April 3, 2022. Ancient wisdom states that there are 3 great sorrows in life: losing one's father in youth, losing one's wife in middle age, losing one's child in old age. I do not fully agree with this viewpoint. First, these 3 sorrows seem to be unrelated to women themselves. Second, these sorrows are not inherent but are created by human cognition and culture. My perspective on the sorrows of life is as follows. First sorrow, lack of maternal love in infancy. Second sorrow, lack of playmates and insufficient opportunities for joyful play during childhood. Third sorrow, lack of guidance on being a human during adolescence. Fourth sorrow, lack of love and the absence of establishing beliefs during youth. Time and energy are expended on the pursuit of marriage, family, and materialistic desires, including food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. Fifth sorrow, stumbling in midlife. Sixth sorrow, being abandoned by family in old age. Seventh sorrow, learning the Bible in adolescence, Buddhist scriptures in youth, and the Quran in old age. Eighth sorrow, delving into cultivation methods and techniques, supernatural abilities, and metaphysics. If one of these sorrows exists, life will be filled with regrets. If 2 sorrows exist, life will be filled with resentment. If 3 sorrows exist, life will be filled with pain. If 4 sorrows exist, life will be filled with defeat. If 5 sorrows exist, life will be filled with chaos. If 6 sorrows exist, life will be filled with hatred. If 7 sorrows exist, life will be filled with suffering. If 8 sorrows exist, life will be a prison. I have the supreme method that can resolve these 8 sorrows. By following this method, the sorrows can be overcome. The 18 Source Causes of Life's Pain. Xiefeng. June 30, 2010. Life should be joyful, happy, free, and blessed, but most people's lives not only lack joy, happiness, freedom, and blessings, but also have many troubles each day and night which stimulate pain in their hearts. We have to ask, what in hell causes the pain in life? Let me analyze the sources of pain in life and see if they are reasonable. Wrong values on value, life, and the universe. The values of value, life, and the universe are the GPS of life. If they are correct, the life journey will gravitate toward joy, happiness, freedom, and blessings like heaven, but once they become misdirected, life will slip toward troubles, anxieties, worries and fears like hell. For example, people die for money and birds die for food is a wrong value. If one insists on such a value, pain will fill their life. For example, every man should take a wife and every woman should take a husband once they reach adulthood. If such a value directs your life will doubtless be full of pain. For example, people just live a lifetime and then die like the light of candles going out, is a wrong perception of life, since it ignores the laws of karma, cause and effect, and of reincarnation. If one accepts such values, their life will definitely be messy and as confused as flies without guidance, and they will encounter a lot of pain. For example, there is no greatest creator, no gods or Buddhas, no celestial beings, and no heaven and hell is also a wrong value of the universe. Such identification does not understand that there are mountains beyond mountains, and heavens beyond heavens, and does not understand that there are 20 parallel worlds and 36-dimensional spaces. It limits one's view of spirit and soul to the narrow life field of current space so they cannot see a bright and clear future, and causes much pain in life. Selfishness. People who prefer to selfishly take benefits and profits only for themselves rather than serving or contributing to others and to society will definitely live painful lives. Greed. Only take 1 cup of water among thousands of rivers and lakes. If one wants to possess all rivers and lakes without restraint, their life will surely be painful. Laziness. Being lazy, preferring leisure over work, being opportunistic, and stealing other people's achievements are qualities which will inevitably lead to corruption and poorness. The result of such people is having painful lives unless they can become pigs. Jealousy. When seeing other people leading lives with better conditions, or living happier, freer, and more joyful lives, one immediately has jealousy and hatred in their heart, or feels uncomfortable without reason, or cannot sit or stand peacefully, or cannot help but be mean and picky, and even wants to harm those other people. This will cause limitless pain in their own life. Complaints. When one has no clear identification of themselves, cannot see clearly their own shortcomings and disadvantages, always puts the reasons of mistakes or responsibilities on others, complains a lot, including complaints to heaven, earth, society, and other people, but never finds reasons from within, such people's lives will inevitably have pain. Comparison. The consciousness of comparison is evil. Once one starts to compare themselves against others, pain comes immediately. Being competitive and aggressive. Being competitive and aggressive, always wanting to have a better life than others, always liking to show themselves off, and always wanting to be superior to others, such people will have much pain during their whole lives. Arrogance. Those who are arrogant, wild and proud, unable to treat people equally while always feeling superior them, disrespectful of other people's personalities, dignity, and freedom, always speaking in a tone of teaching and superiority, revealing contempt in their eyes, and have no basic politeness, are annoying people and they will have a lot of pain. Being dependent. Not trusting in and relying on the greatest creator, not trusting in and relying on oneself, putting the hope of having a happy life without the troubles of food, shelter, clothes, transportation, birth, aging, sickness, and death on someone else, always wanting to rely on and be fed by others, and placing their spiritual prop on someone else, such people will have lots of pain in life, too. Infatuated and poisoned love. Marital love, faithful love, pledge of eternal love, and voluntarily suffering love are all poisonous love. Once one owns poisonous love, their life is inevitably painful. Possession and occupation. Once one owns something, they will definitely taste pain. The more one owns, the more pain will come. In order to possess something, one must spend their time, energy, and heart to own it successfully. In order to maintain all they have, they need to think thoroughly to find the solution. In order to occupy for as long a time as they can, they have to cheat, fight, intrigue against others, and even join life and death struggles. How can such a life not be painful? Chase for fame and profits. Life is only one journey of life in the human world. If one struggles fiercely and competes seriously in such a short time, which is like the illusion of a flower blossom, and chases for fame and profits all the time, his life will be surely full of pain. Attachment. Whether it is money, rights and privileges, fame, positions, or people, as long as one attachments to things, one cannot have an independent consciousness and his own opinion. He will speak and act according to other people's opinions or wills, and become a suffering slaver or puppet. Want to change or control others. All life beings have their own natures. Rivers and mountains can be changed, but it is hard to alter a person's nature. If one tries to change or control others by his own interests, habits, characters, and wills, tries to have others live according to his own will, it will surely bring unhappiness to both sides, and cause many pains in life. Depart from the way of nature. Departing from the original intention of the greatest creator, suppressing one's nature and love, and trying to resist nature to attain supernatural power, trying to attain special abilities, and living life without following the way of nature is just like hurling eggs against stones. Such life will definitely be painful. Violating laws and disciplines. Countries can disappear, but government cannot. In order to maintain the efficient and harmonious operation of society, governments must require their citizens to obey conventions, that is the constitution, laws, rules, and disciplines. If people do not obey the conventions, but often violate laws and disciplines, and even commit crimes, it will surely cause painful lives. The consciousnesses of marriage, family, nation, political parties, religions, and organizations. Once people have the above consciousnesses, once they enter into the programs of marriage, family, nation, political parties, religions, and organizations, their lives will definitely suffer. The future of humanity should be like this. Dayform Buddha. January 21, 2024. Archaeologists, through scientific exploration and research, believe that humanity has faced extinction 4 times. The primary reasons for extinction were the overall spiritual degradation and dimming of human heart. The core factors of spiritual degradation were the pursuit of sensory pleasures, the relentless quest for power, and the competition for survival resources. The main signs of dimming heart were the disregard for the Creator, the lack of appreciation for natural resources, and life. The current human society teeters on the cliff of spiritual degradation and dimming hearts again. Its main characteristics include an obsessive pursuit of wealth, boundless greed, extravagant squandering, insatiable desires, and a frenzy for competing for survival resources, comparable to the levels preceding the 4 previous human extinctions. Humanity faces an imminent crisis. I am pointing out the path for humanity to ponder its future. Choosing the path of socialist collectivization means that the toiling masses can only live in poverty, but the overall human lifespan will extend. Opting for the capitalist path of market-oriented capitalism means that the toiling masses can lead affluent lives, but the overall human lifespan will shorten. Neither socialism nor capitalism is an ideal path. The socialist collectivization path inevitably leads to poverty, while the capitalist market-oriented path, although bringing affluence and maximal development of productivity, will deplete natural resources, leading to a backlash from nature. Other paths, such as military control, are purely barbaric and will result in poverty and societal chaos. The most ideal path for the future of humanity is Xiafeng-style communism. Please note, it is not the communism advocated and practiced by Marx, Lenin, Mao Zedong, but Xiafeng-style communism. Xiafeng-style communism has been practiced on Earth for 15 years, which can permanently solve nearly 90% of the challenges humanity faces, such as territorial disputes between nations and elder support issues, among others. The more extensive and detailed the content and clauses in constitutions, laws, and regulations, the more problems will arise. More management personnel lead to higher societal operational costs. Therefore, all constitutions, laws, and regulations should be abolished and replaced with values for the orderly functioning of society. To this end, I have prepared 800 values for new era humanity. To live a happy life and ensure the continued existence of humanity on Earth, all humans must undergo a spiritual purification. I have also prepared the course for spiritual purification for humanity. The future of humanity, Xiafeng-style communism. Xiafeng. March 2, 2024. Reviewing history, whether in Europe, Africa, Asia, the Americas, or Oceania, the recurring themes have been war, hunger, disease, turmoil, and various natural disasters. No nation, no individual has lived a life filled with joy, happiness, freedom, and bliss. The historical facts of the past 5,000 years of the current human civilization tell us that nations, religions, political parties, money, and power cannot solve the suffering of humanity. Instead, they not only fail to solve it but also increase the burden and suffering of humanity. Since nations, religions, political parties, money, and power cannot alleviate human suffering and, in fact, add to it, the logical solution is for nations to disappear, for religions to vanish, for political parties to cease, for money to be eliminated, and for power to be eradicated. Will humanity revert to a primitive era, tribal times, or city-states if nations, religions, political parties, money, and power disappear? The answer is a resounding no, as the overall cognitive level of humanity has risen, technology has advanced, thinking has become more dynamic, knowledge and wisdom have reached unprecedented levels. People no longer wish to regress to the past, just as an increasing number of individuals are reluctant to enter the marital and familial hardships. In the absence of nations, religions, political parties, money, and power, where will humanity go? The answer is, towards the era of Lifechanyuan, also known as Xifeng-style communism, or the kingdom of the greatest creator. In Lifechanyuan era, within the Xifeng-style communism program, there will be no nations, religions, political parties, money, power, marriages, or families. In Lifechanyuan era, under the program of Xifeng-style communism, there will be no constitutions, laws, or regulations. Instead, individuals will adhere to a set of values guiding their conduct. In Xifeng-style communism, resources are shared worldwide, everyone possesses nothing yet owns everything, and individuals, unselfish and selfless, create the most magnificent symphony of life. Can't imagine it? Impossible? In the universe, there is nothing that is impossible. There are only things that one cannot imagine and thoughts one cannot conceive, but nothing is truly impossible. All material phenomena are the outcomes of consciousness. The essence of the world lies in the formless manifestations. If the above is considered mere conceptual and theoretical exploration, termed as fantasy utopian communism, I assert the future of humanity is the Xifeng-style communism, because it is backed by the practical activity of Lifechanyuan, a new model of human production and life, the second home, which started in April 2009 and has been successfully running for 15 years with a wealth of information available, textual, visual, and video descriptions in the online world. To enter the Xifeng-style communist lifestyle, everything is possible, but the biggest challenge is that all of humanity needs a profound spiritual purification, a monumental and challenging undertaking. The core of spiritual purification lies in the construction of the human soul garden. The main task of building the soul garden is to uproot negative and pessimistic psychological and emotional elements such as greed, jealousy, comparison, selfishness, laziness, complaints, hatred, and ego from the human heart. Despite people's beliefs or willingness, the program has already been initiated. The future of humanity is Xifeng-style communism. The future of humanity. Xifeng. We all look forward to an era where everyone will have a happy and worry-free life. Let's suppose the greatest creator and gods do not exist. Are we able to realize this dream only by relying on the wisdom of humanity? The answer is no. Without the guide of the greatest creator and the power of gods and Buddhas, human beings is not possible to realize this beautiful dream. How many authorities will step aside for others? How many rich men will contribute all their wealth to society? How many poor people will work hard except having more children as long as they don't need to worry about food? Let's imagine if the future of humanity is ruled by one religion, what will happen? It would be terrible. Please think of the reason yourself. If the world is ruled by one secular government, what will happen? Same, autocracy and incompetency will soak up the blood of the underprivileged. If we keep current situation, different religions exist, countries act on their own will, everything is decided by the country itself, what will happen? The world is going to collapse. So, what will be the best living situation of humanity? The core in short is, walk on the way of the greatest creator. Build a non-interference government, promoting freedom in politics, economy, culture, thinking and spiritual pursuit. Then, the future of humanity will be like the following. All religions will gradually disappear, humans revere the same and the only greatest creator. Wars between nations will no longer take place, no country will have a military force. The leaders of each country are elected by its people, election is no longer manipulated by the minority. Each leader serves no longer than 2 terms. The population will no longer be increasing unlimitedly, the growth of population will be controlled. Power and wealth are no longer the most important life goals of humans. People will not talk about how to fight with nature and men, the earth will become a place where all life beings coexist harmoniously. Terrorist activities are going to disappear. Crimes will be decreasing year by year. The care of elders and the education of the youth will become the responsibilities of the whole society, which are no longer private affairs of individuals or families. Family life is going to dissolve, relationship of men and women is going to show diverse forms. Scientists and artists will be respected by the general. Manual labor is not regarded as a less decent job. A common bill of rights will be made, journalists will have greater freedom, the force of darkness in some regions will be curbed. A lazy person will be regarded as miserable and incompetent, a parasite-like lifestyle will be seen as a pity. Humans will be able to make new form of life, intelligent robots will come into being, Sahara will be returning to green again. A large number of supermen will appear, they discover the secret of brain and find the channel to communicate with the greatest creator, and therefore they know the secret of time and space, the cause and effect relationship of lives transiting in different time and space, the secret of thinking, the power of mind, and the road towards higher level life space. These supermen will bring the material and spiritual life of humanity to a brand new level. There will not be nature disasters anymore, earthquakes, floods, diseases will all vanish. Earth becomes a blessed paradise, which will be serene and harmonious, prosperous and vibrant, cranes are flying in the sky. People are healthy and have a long life, everyone live in peace and enjoy their job. In conclusion, human beings will enter an unprecedented, highly developed and civilized era, an era with happiness, abundance and freedom. Everyone will transform to a celestial at the end. We will understand all secrets by that time, each moment of our life will be extremely joyful, we will meet our family and friends who have passed away, a brilliant new life will start to unfold. However, there is a prerequisite, which is we must walk on the way of the greatest creator, if we ignore it, everything will be developing in the opposite direction. The highest realm of life. Xiefeng. December 18, 2012. Last night, the west wind withered the green trees. Alone, I ascended the high tower, gazing at the distant road to the end of the sky. The belt of my robe is gradually getting looser, but I do not regret it, it is for him that I've grown pale. Amidst the crowd, searching for him countless times, suddenly I turned my head, and there he was, at the dimly lit crossroads. These are the three realms of life discussed by the great scholar Wang Guowei in his work, Words in the World. At 30, one stands on their own, at 40, they are no longer perplexed, at 50, they understand their destiny, at 60, their ears are obedient, at 70, they follow their heart's desires without overstepping bounds. These are the life realms according to Confucius, the sage of China. Opening up the south wilderness, tending to the simple and returning to the field. Rising early to cleanse the wilderness, carrying the hoe under the moon. Diligently working in the early hours, returning with the plow at sunset. Dogs bark deep in the lanes, roosters crow on top of mulberry trees. Picking chrysanthemums by the eastern fence, leisurely seeing the southern mountains. These are the realms of life according to Tao Yuan Ming. Heavenly realm, human realm, and earthly realm, the realm of gods with goodness, no desires, wisdom, and no illnesses is the heavenly realm. The realm with the 7 emotions, 6 desires, birth, aging, illness, and death, and the troubles of desires is the human realm. The realm of monsters, demons, ghosts, and goblins is the earthly realm. These are the 3 realms of life in Taoism. The desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm represent the worlds inhabited by sentient beings with desires, encompassing lust, emotions, physical desires, and food desires, which belong to the desire realm. The world that transcends desire yet retains material existence and is inhabited by sentient beings with pure physical forms belongs to the form realm. The world inhabited by sentient beings devoid of material substance, existing solely with the 4 mental aggregates of sensation, thought, action, and consciousness, is the formless realm. These constitute the 3 realms of life in Buddhism. Falling leaves fill the empty mountains, where do I find your footprints? Empty mountains, no one around, the water flows, and the flowers bloom. The vast sky endures through the ages, but the wind and moon only last a moment. These are the 3 realms of life in Zen Buddhism. Satisfying physiological needs, security needs, emotional needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs, according to American psychologist Abraham Maslow, these are life realms from low to high. Realms indicate the spiritual and mental heights of a person, reflecting the essence, taste, quality, and value of their life. As the Life and Life Guide in Lifechanyuan, what kind of realm do I aim to help the Chanyuan Celestials achieve as the highest in their lives? No debts, owing neither money to anyone nor emotional obligations, going with the flow and living freely. Free from any worries, there are no concerns about sustenance, lodging, travel, or the cycle of birth and death. The mind abides nowhere, holds no attachments, and experiences profound serenity and joy. Without desires or wants, simply flowing with nature, feeling content regardless of location or activity. When the wind rustles through the bamboo leaves no trace. When geese pass over a cold pond, the pond shows no shadow, neither concerned about poverty nor eager for wealth. Non-contention with the world, no judgments or evaluations of the people and the world, as if one is watching the world of mundane affairs like an ant kingdom. Everything follows its nature, naturally, without trying to change anything. Let wolves be wolves and sheep be sheep. Do not try to turn wolves into sheep or sheep into wolves. The course of life, what's it like, I wonder? Perhaps like a wild goose treading snow-mired paths, in passing, it may leave a mark on the mud, but the goose flies on without looking back. Meanwhile, throughout one's life, behold the world of truth, goodness, and beauty, ignore the phenomena of falsehood, evil, and ugliness. Harmony with heaven, merging with the Tao, uniting with heaven, earth, and all things, without self or form, being flexible, harmonious in stillness and motion, and advancing and retreating effortlessly. Abundant soul wealth, abundant spiritual wealth, and abundant material wealth. Accumulating abundant treasures in heaven, knowing your future is extremely broad and brilliant, understanding that your life's future resides in the picturesque heavenly high-level space. Strictly adhering to the way of the greatest creator, biting the blue mountain and refusing to let go, its roots are firmly embedded within the shattered rocks. Despite 1,000 strikes and 10,000 blows, it remains unyielding against the winds blowing from all directions. Regardless of how the wind blows and the waves surge, it's better than taking a leisurely stroll in a courtyard. Above is the highest realm of life I want to guide the Chanyuan Celestials to reach, with no debts, no concerns for the future, no desires, non-contention with the world, harmony with heaven, unity with the Tao, 3 types of abundant wealth, treasures in heaven, and strict adherence to the way of the greatest creator. Having a realm indicates that a person tends towards nobility and elegance. Without a realm, a person tends towards vulgarity and coarseness. The higher the realm, the greater the spiritual and mental freedom one gains. The lower the realm, the easier it is for a person to be entangled in worldly matters and deceived by fleeting appearances, resulting in less freedom. Climbing to the highest realm of life and life is the direction we are striving for and the goal we want to achieve. After 3 years of practice in the second home of Lifechanyuan, we climbed to the middle of the mountain. It is certain that as long as we live in the second home for 8 years, 80% of the Chanyuan Celestials will surely realize their dreams and achieve their most beautiful ideals. The realm of Chanyuan Celestials is very high, and Chanyuan Celestials' future of life and life is very beautiful.